1 is here, and we've got the how this show works is Sam and I are going to give you 3 sleepers for week 1. These are guys who aren't being widely recommended as starters and maybe even available on the waiver wire or simply to elevate off your bench. And then we're going to spend a few minutes answering your start-sit questions before we cap things off with our flaming hot, bold predictions for the week. We keep it pretty fast-paced and clean. It'll be about 30 minutes. You can find us here every Saturday night from now through Fantasy Championship Week. So now that you know what we're all about, know what you're in for, Sam, kick us off with your first sleeper for week 1.
Let's do it. I'm going to start off with an offense that should be much improved over last season. It'll be the first season of a full year of Drake May in New England. And my first sleeper is the wide receiver 2 from that team. It's Pop Douglas. Pop is going to be he'll be supporting Stephon Diggs and Kayshon Boutte, as we know, and maybe Kyle Williams eventually. But Douglas runs out of the slot a lot, so his yards per catch are never particularly fancy, you know what I mean? It's 8 or 9 yards and a cloud of dust, basically. But he's got 115 catches over the last 2 years. That's on 166 targets. As you can expect, the slot does get targeted pretty frequently. I think there's absolutely some room there for him. You hear a lot about how Hunter Henry kind of was the receiving game last year. Pop Douglas's numbers were almost identical. In fact, he had another touchdown or 2 over Henry. So, that's a big deal. And you're talking about May, who's going to be a little more comfortable. He's not going to need that security blanket that is a tight end in the middle of the field. But he will utilize the slot rather than go down the field on every play. So I really like Pop Douglas on rosters this season. Even if he's not an every week player, he's certainly good enough and dependable enough with a safe enough floor, I think, to be an every week possible plug and play flex.
Yeah. In that receiving core, Stephon Diggs getting all the attention. There's a lot of buzz about Kyle Williams as a sleeper. But Demario Douglas has been the steady drumbeat from training camp and preseason in that wide receiver room in New England. And like you said, I think we can naturally expect a step forward, maybe even a significant leap this year from year 1 to year 2 for Drake May. And Demario Douglas, you talked about the slot gets a ton of targets. How many Josh McDaniels led offenses have we seen the player from the slot just get absolutely annihilated with targets?
Right.
And I think that can be Diggs coming off the knee injury. I like this call. Demario Douglas was a guy I drafted a lot in best ball leagues this year. It was so easy to stack him with Drake May because Drake May was a guy I was drafting a ton of. It was just so easy to just go and get Demario Douglas. He goes after Drake May. I like this call. I think he's a legitimate starter in a lot of leagues for you this week.
Yeah, I think also it bears mentioning too. I think a lot of people feel like DeMario's just kind of been around the league for a while. He hasn't. This is only his third season. So, there are still wide receivers out there that don't hit right away year one. And a lot of times that depends on the quarterback play. I'm anxious to see what he can do now with Drake May being completely comfortable and in complete control of that offense.
Yeah, I think there's a legitimate chance that he leads that team in targets this year.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on. I got another wide receiver for you for week one, another veteran who kind of just doesn't feel sexy, but it's Josh Palmer. Josh Palmer he's being so underappreciated. The Bills just gave him $18 million guaranteed. He's part of that wide receiver core that is pretty much wide open for someone to step up and be the guy. Khalil Shakir, he missed most of August with an ankle sprain. His status for week one is kind of fuzzy. I think he's going to play, but it's probably going to be not a full go. And even if he does play, he's just not going to be that full. These ankle sprains are something that's even when guys come back, they're not 100% for several weeks, even after they come back, especially a slot guy like Khalil Shakir who needs to cut on that ankle. So that means Josh Palmer is likely going to lead this team in targets in week one. I think Keon Coleman could be the favorite to give you those flashy plays, downfield stuff, maybe some red zone targets. He's probably not going to lead the team in targets, though. It's probably not going to be Dalton Kincaid, so why not Josh Palmer? And there should be a lot of game and a lot of points scored. I know the Bills didn't have a ton of success passing against the Ravens when they played each other last season, but the Ravens allowed the fourth most yards to wide receivers and fifth most fantasy points per game to the wide receiver position in 2024. I think we could get like a 7-catch, 75-yard type of game from Josh Palmer. Maybe he even gets into the end zone for you. Either way, he should be a nice PPR play. Yahoo leagues.
Yeah, you mentioned Keon Coleman, and he's been a very sexy pick for a lot of analysts to have kind of a breakout season this year. I'm not going to get too far into whether or not I agree with that. I don't particularly. But regardless, he's also a little banged up coming out of training camp. So, it just stands to reason that anybody they'll probably both play, but anybody can drop at any time. And, the healthiest guy on the field is probably going to get fed the most.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, who you got as your second sleeper for week one?
My second sleeper. Let's see. All right, I got a long one. I got a long shot, and it comes with a caveat.
Okay, let's hear it.
All right, buckle up. My second sleeper is Woody Marks, the running back from the Houston Texans. Now, we know what's going on in Houston. Joe Mixon is not walking through that door. In fact, if he does come through that door, he's probably going to be rolling. Nick Chubb, if you saw him last year, that doesn't inspire a lot. And Dameon Pierce, ever since his one breakout year, hasn't really inspired a lot. Neither one of them are particularly adept at catching passes. And then you've got Woody Marks, Jaquavius, if you will. He went to Mississippi State, went on to USC. He had 200 carries at USC. So there's some people selling his size short, but that was a career high. He kept getting more and more every season. And as a brand new player to USC for one season last year, they just gave him the rock. They just said, here, take it 200 times. For I think just north of 1,100 yards, if I'm not mistaken. He also, over his college career, had a whopping 261 catches, not targets. 261 catches, topped off by, I think in 21, he had 83. I mean, he was closing in on 100 catch season in a short college season, shorter than the pros. So, I mean, he's got the work. So here's my thinking. My thinking on Woody Marks is, if he gets to play, he will primarily be this week, I'm saying, he will primarily be a pass catcher. And maybe they'll run him a couple times in the middle, but more than likely he'll be supporting Chubb or Pierce until they realize that those guys are no good. But I think Woody in PPR leagues could be very valuable. And the only caveat here is that Texans backfield runs 4 deep, because everybody forgets about Dare Ogunbowale, who is like a pass protection master. So there is a chance, I do see a chance, that Woody, as a rookie, is not active for the game. So that means if you've got him, I think you should feel confident playing him in a flex if you're kind of iffy on one guy or another. But you're going to have to be watching the inactives pretty closely on Sunday to make sure that he's indeed in there. And he still could be, because Ogunbowale could also has a role on special teams. So it stands to reason that they could run 3 running backs out there plus him on special teams. So they might carry 4 into the game. I guess it just depends on how comfortable they are with whoever their starter is. But last but not least, I've talked enough. Sorry, Alex. Certainly Woody Marks, I think, is a player that needs to be stashed on so many rosters. If you've got a spare roster spot, I would take it, because I honestly believe that this is a rookie who, when they realize that Chubb and Pierce can no longer cut the mustard, they're going to give him a chance. And not only are they going to give him a chance to run the ball, but he's going to be catching passes too, and he could be a really dangerous threat in that offense. So if he's available on waivers and you've got a free spot, I'd say add him. I've got a ton of shares.
Yeah. First off, props on smoothly and cleanly saying Ogunbowale. That was impressive. Practice that on the mirror before you came on. Yeah, we little peek behind the curtain here. Originally, I was planning on going Woody Marks, and then I got cold feet. I got cold feet yesterday. I texted you, and I was like, I don't know if I can go Woody Marks, and you scooped him up for the same reason that you said. There's I think it's an equal possibility that he's a healthy inactive in week 1 as the chance that he could be a usable PPR 10+ point fantasy asset for us in week 1.
Yeah,
But I
he's not going to be active and not do anything. It's going to be hot or cold, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's a guy that I was drafting aggressively during the summer in deep best ball leagues. And I drafted him a lot in dynasty rookie drafts. This is a guy I've liked through the whole process. I mean, I tweeted probably about 3 weeks ago that Woody Marks is this year's Bucky Irving. It might not be, the hot starts, but I think he could legitimately have a significant role in the second half of the season.
Well, and even Bucky didn't even really blow up until later in the season anyway. I mean, he started at the beginning, looking good, but he didn't really take over that job fully from Rashad White until a good chunk of the season had gone already.
Right. Yeah, and you mentioned it, the PPR, if he plays, he's going to give you some points because, I mean, the purpose of this show, we're not looking for superstar 25-point performances. We're looking for guys who can fill in, in a flex spot, in a pinch. You can find off the waiver wire, find off the bench, and use and get a usable week from. I think if Woody Marks is out there, if he's playing, he could give you legitimately 4 to 5 receptions, 30, 40 receiving yards, 7 or 8 carries, 20 to 30 rushing yards maybe. That's 10 plus fantasy points right there. It's really not hard to see him get there if he's out there. And that's not even factoring in. I think there's a slight possibility that the Texans could just go all in on him from the get-go, give him 12 carries, 15 carries. I don't think that's likely, but it's in the range of outcomes, I think. I mean, it's Nick Chubb and Dameon Pierce as the competition in that backfield. So, at
the very least, they could have him share the backfield with one of the bigger guys and just do kind of a, I hesitate to say it, it's so overused, but a thunder and lightning kind of situation. Because Woody Marks is extremely shifty. He's got a really nice burst and a gear that those two guys don't have.
Yeah, I think one thing we should say, especially with it being week 1, this show, you may not start all these guys, but it could be used as kind of like a preview to the waiver wire for week 2, week 3. These are guys who you might want to just get ahead of and stash on your bench if they have the chance to do so.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna head right back to the wide receiver position for my second sleeper, and this one, shockingly, is actually less as a lower. Ray-Ray McCloud of the Falcons is 1% rostered in Yahoo leagues. I think with the Darnell Mooney injury, it sounds like he's a game-time decision. Ray-Ray McCloud is set to take on a somewhat significant role in the Falcons' offense in week 1. He'll work as the number 3 option for Michael Penix behind Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Even if Darnell Mooney is out there, I think he's just going to get, he's going to be on a pitch count a little bit, coming off of his injury, missing most of the summer. But McCloud, he had his moments last year in a struggling Falcons offense with Kirk Cousins at quarterback. He still finished with a very respectable 62 catches, 680 or 86 receiving yards. And there were 4 weeks where he actually finished as a top 35 wide receiver for fantasy football. And that included a 12.6 point performance against the Buccaneers. I hit the mute button on accident.
I was like, man, your Wi-Fi is really bad.
12.6 points he scored against the Buccaneers, who, guess what? They're playing them in week 1. That happened last year in week 5. He was targeted 9 times in that game. He caught 6 for 66. And now he gets the Bucs again to kick off the 2025 season, plus a quarterback upgrade from Kirk Cousins to Michael Penix, who looked good in his 3 starts at the end of last season. He looked really good. And this is his second year now. He's going to take that leap. And Penix targeted Ray-Ray McCloud 7 times in Week 18. For what it's worth, I know that was just a throwaway Week 18, but these guys played together for a couple of weeks. Abby, that was 10.6 fantasy points for Ray-Ray McCloud Week 18 to cap off the season last year with Michael Penix as his quarterback. And this Bucs-Falcons game could be our first fantasy points party of the year. We've got 2 loaded offenses, questionable defenses on both sides. They're in the Dome in Atlanta. These 2 teams averaged 61.5 combined points in their 2 matchups last season. The Buccaneers gave up the 10th most fantasy points to the wide receiver position in 2024. And their focus is going to be on stopping Drake London and Bijan Robinson, which should open up some easy looks for the secondary options like Ray-Ray McCloud. And there's going to be a bunch of points scored in this game, both in reality and in fantasy. So we want guys from this game in our lineups for fantasy football, even if we're going to go as deep as Ray-Ray McCloud. So if you're looking for that desperation flex play in a deeper league, this is one of those games that you should be targeting. And my recommendation going deep from this game is Ray-Ray McCloud. Roll the dice on him. Just see what happens. 1% roster than Yahoo.
I'm going to throw a little bit of a spicy take on piggybacking on something you said. I agree that this could be a really big fantasy point party. I actually, my pick this week is one of the games we just talked about, which is the Patriots and the Raiders. Because I think both of them have something to prove. Both of them have seriously upgraded their offenses, and they could both be just. I mean, I know everybody wants to see Travion and Ashton Genty, but maybe that actually adds to it. The fact that they're so explosive. And that May and Gino are both going to be throwing the ball. That could be a fun one, too.
And I would also throw out there Panthers-Jaguars could be a sneaky little high-scoring shootout there. I think we got 2 ascending offenses, questionable defenses, some weapons, some quarterbacks who have something to prove. Could happen.
I agree.
All right, who is your
okay, we're going to go to my third one.
Yeah, take it away.
And Tyler, we'll get to your question here in a little bit. Well, if you remember it all from last year, or anybody watching this remembers from last year, I always have to do a tight end.
Of course. We had tight ends every week. That was like our thing. That was our thing.
You got to have a tight end because guess what? Somebody always needs a tight end.
Even in week 1.
And I'm going to go with one that is not heavily rostered and probably should be. And that is tight end Brenton Strange from Jacksonville. Obviously, he took over for Ingram towards the end of last season, when Ingram was shut down due to injury, and Strange had 28 targets over the couple games that he played just by himself, and prior to that, he did okay. I mean, overall, he had 40 targets 40 catches on like 51 targets, I think. It was good for 411 yards and a couple touchdowns. For a part-time tight end, that's pretty good. You know what I mean? I mean, that's potential totals that are reaching a lot higher by the end of the season if you continue that pace. I understand that he's not Evan Ingram. But that doesn't change the fact that Trevor Lawrence has always liked throwing to the tight end. That's been kind of one of his MOs. And I don't think that even though he's got Thomas and Hunter out there, I don't know how much that's really going to affect the fact that he aims the middle of the field a lot, and takes what the defense will give him. He's a smart quarterback that way, and probably underrated for that very reason. So, I think there's a real big opportunity. Strange's head coach is now Liam Cohen, who just oversaw Kate Otten set career highs in receptions, yards, and TDs in his 1 year in Tampa Bay. So I don't think the coach is going to forget about him, and I don't think Lawrence is going to forget about him. And for me, that's really all I need. If I got two guys in my corner of that importance to the tight end position, then I'll go with them. And I mean, there are a pretty decent amount of tight ends that I would start Strange over this week. I'd play him ahead of Pat Freiermuth.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? I probably would have played him over Will Dissly yesterday. So there's, I mean, Strange was a second round pick. People forget that. He was taken second round out of tight end U at Penn State. And so he comes with a little pomp and circumstance. This was obviously the Jaguars' plan all along, was to make him the future of the position.
Yeah, and we had just mentioned that this Panthers-Jaguars game could, produce some points.
Yeah.
Could be a little bit of back and forth, could require some passes, some passing volume. And I mean, everybody wants it to be, Brian Thomas Jr. Everybody wants to see what's going to happen with Travis Hunter. What's going to happen with this backfield? When all said and done, it could just be, Brenton Strange. He slides under the radar and gives you, 12 fantasy points, and he's the wide receiver, 12 on the week, 10 on the week. Stranger things have happened.
I see what you did there. What's funny too is, speaking of that game, when I was trying to decide, before I thought to myself, what are you doing? You have to do a tight end. I was actually going to go with Tank Bigsby from that game. I really like Tank, and Carolina did not do a whole lot to upgrade their defense, and they were so bad against the run.
They were. Yeah.
So bad.
All right. Let's wrap up our sleepers before we get to questions and bold predictions. My third sleeper here is going to be Mr. Ollie Gordon of the Dolphins. He was a really late riser in draft season, and now he's all the way to the point where I think you can legitimately consider putting him in your week one starting lineup. Devon Achane, he's not 100% coming in. He's going to play, but he's not 100% at all. And Jalen Wright is out. Alexander Madison is on IR. There's going to be opportunity for Ollie Gordon to take a fairly significant workload in this game. And he's a good running back. In 2023 at Oklahoma State, he led the FBS with 1,732 rushing yards. That included 9 100-yard games. He scored 22 touchdowns. He won the Doak Walker Award as the best running back in college football. That's the definition of the Doak Walker Award. 2 years ago, this guy was the best running back in college football. He had a down
Easily,
year.
easily, not even close.
Oh, and let me also include he came 7th in the voting for the Heisman Trophy. This is a legitimate running back. And now he gets an opportunity in week 1 against a Colts defense that allowed the 11th most fantasy points per game to running backs last season. He could absolutely get 10 plus touches in this game. And even if we take Devon Achane's injury and just forget about it, Miami has a history of using a split backfield. We saw that with Achane and Mostert over the last 2 years. And Gordon is that perfect complement to Devon Achane's small but fast play style. Gordon is a complete opposite guy of Devon Achane. He's going to truly give you that cliche thunder and lightning combination here. He's 6'1", 225 pounds. At worst, he is going to get at least the goal line work against the Colts, who allowed the 7th most rushing touchdowns to running backs last year. So get Ollie Gordon in your flex, maybe even in your RB2 spot in some situations. I would bet that he outscores what Amari and Hampton did last night.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I will also say that if anybody drafted prior to, let's say, the last 10 to 14 days, if anybody drafted before that, I guarantee you nobody took Ollie Gordon.
He's only 43% rostered.
Yeah,
43%.
They were only taking him now because he started getting talked up in the last 2 weeks as a possibility for Achane being hurt, and now Jalen Wright is hurt as well. But Ollie Gordon should not be on waivers. He's, if you've got Wan'Dale Robinson, drop him and add Ollie Gordon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not picking on Wan'Dale. I'm just giving you an example of someone who is unlikely really to contribute. He's going to be like the last person you think about for flex. And whereas Ollie Gordon is the very definition of a lottery ticket. You could possibly get him for free, and he could be a league winner this year.
And get him now before he goes out and gives you 12, 15 fantasy points this week, and everybody's paying up to get him on the week 2 waiver wire.
Yeah.
All right, so before we get to our questions, before we get to our bold predictions, I just want to throw out, it's week 1. I kind of want to throw out a few more names, just rapid fire. I'm looking at Jatavian Sanders, also from that Panthers-Jaguars game. Jerome Ford against the Bengals. I know it's the Browns. I know it's gross, but we got no Quinshon Judkins. It's Dylan Sampson, a rookie running back, as his only competition there. No Pierre Strong. He's gone as well. And the Bengals get torched by running backs as an all-purpose running back. So no matter the game script, he's going to take a lot of touches, have some opportunities in that game. Olamide Zaccheaus, Cedric Tillman, Chris Rodriguez. There's some other guys maybe you could find on your waiver wire. If you're in a pinch, you could start these guys. But I'll
tell you what. I'll throw it back to that Jaguars game again and say, watch De'Ami Brown this year in the slot for Jacksonville. He's also, one of my favorites. And keep in mind, I keep talking about Jacksonville receivers. Part of that is we don't know what they're going to do with Hunter. We don't know if I know they listed him as a backup cornerback. But, will he then take a series off after he plays a series at quarterback or cornerback, so on and so forth. So the pass catchers there all should find value at some point. And Lawrence, this is the most weapons Lawrence has ever had. So I think you're going to see a really breakthrough year from him. So I love De'Ami Brown, and if you've got Jaylen Warren on a roster, start him. He needs to be in the lineup this week. All it took was them saying he's going to be the featured back, and everybody went ding. So no more wondering.
Well, let's grab a couple of questions real quick. And speaking of questions, I just want to remind the people tomorrow and Sundays throughout the season, we're going to have a start sit show live right here. Go live about 12:15, 12:20. We'll go all the way up to kickoff time. Just answering your questions rapid fire. Just throw them out there, and we'll help you set your lineups. But we do have this question here from Tyler in the chat. He's asking, should he trade Puka Nacua for Devon Achane? His other running backs on his roster are DeAndre Swift, Dave Montgomery, Travis Etienne, Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, and his wide receivers are Nico Collins, Puka Nacua, Calvin Ridley, Jalen Waddle, Ricky Pearsall, Hollywood Brown, Cedric Tillman. It's a PPR league, and it is not Dynasty. It is a redraft league. This one's a close one. It's just, but I think both sides are risky here.
I agree. Both guys certainly have an injury history, at the very least of being banged up, even if they don't miss significant time. I put more value on Puka over Achane. But I would say for this season, the hope would be that Nico, Ridley, Waddle, and Pearsall should be a solid enough wide receiving core to make a run. Whereas adding Achane and playing him over any of those backs that are listed would be a significant upgrade. Maybe not Swift, but Monty's going to lose more carries this year. Nobody knows what's going on with Etienne. Nick Chubb is toast, and Mixon probably is not coming back. So yeah, I mean, I guess I would do it. I'd be tempted to try to get the Achane owner to add a little something into it, but that's my dynasty brain talking. Because in redraft, you're not usually gonna just kind of get a throw in. But yeah, I would take Achane in this situation.
Yeah, I think I agree. The calf injury makes me slightly hesitant here. But if you're okay taking on that risk, I think it's a move you should be making. I think Devon Achane has a better chance to be the RB1 this year than Puka Nacua has to be the wide receiver 1. So I'm just going to take that shot there.
Truth.
All right, let's get this one from Charlene. Thoughts on Dante Thornton, 4.3 speed. Amari Cooper retires. Could he be? I mean, there was a lot of camp buzz about him. Could he be the starter out there? Could he make some plays? Is he kind of just like a dart throw?
I love that, Charlene. I love that you gave me his height and his speed, because I have had that memorized for like weeks, man, because I'm so excited about Dante Thornton. Coming into camp and after the draft, Jack Betch was supposed to be the guy. And it took like no time at all for Dante Thornton to be like, I'm working with the ones. You go sit over there.
Yeah.
So yeah, with him, I was very skeptical when they signed Amari Cooper, not because I think Amari Cooper has had a ton of juice left, but because it was just another guy. There was just another guy in the room, and that means less targets. But as soon as he retired, I was like, oh, we crank Thornton back up. So I love Dante Thornton. If you don't have him, if you're thinking about picking him up, I would say pick him up. And she's advocating the stash. I agree. Stash him all day long. All day long.
All right. What do you got for a bold prediction?
How come I always have to go first? Is that because you
You
like
know
to shut the video off right when you're done talking?
I do, yeah. You can't
Okay.
question. You can't question my take if I shut it off.
All right. My bold prediction is this year, Jamar Chase is not quite going to see the numbers he saw from last season, but he is going to lead in catches and yards and touchdowns in all the Triple Crown categories and lose the Triple Crown to Drake London.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I was like, where are you going with this? This just seems not bold at all. And then you came in with that. I love it. I love it. I love it. I think there's I don't know if he's going to hit those numbers. I think there's a legitimate chance that Drake London could be. There's a chance he could end up as the wide receiver 1 on the year.
He's definitely going to have the most catches. I'm saying that right now, and I don't think that's bold at all.
Yeah, he was a target monster last year with Kirk Cousins at quarterback, and now he's got this big-armed, young, Michael Penix who's going to sling it down the field. We're going to get more yards. We're going to get a greater depth of target. We're going to get just as many targets, if not more, because they might even throw the ball even more than they did with Kirk Cousins last year because we get a guy who can actually throw it. I like it. I like it a lot. I got a lot of Drake London.
The only thing that'll slow him down is if they really lean on Bijan, and that's hard not to do because he's so good. But yeah, Drake London, Triple Crown winner over Jamar Chase. They're going to do so many commercials together.
Well, we didn't plan this ahead of time, but I'm going to stick right there in Atlanta for my bold prediction. But mine's going to be week 1 specific. This is not a season-long take. This is week 1 and get out. So I'm looking at Drake London's teammates. I want to preface this with I've never been this guy who's been advocating.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
I've never been that guy. That's been that guy over there. All right.
Yes.
Not me. So with Darnell Mooney missing most of training camp, we talked a lot about this with Ray-Ray McCloud. Mooney could be a game time decision. Even if he plays, he's probably going to be a little bit limited, getting worked back in. He missed a lot of time, new quarterback and all that. But we talked about how this game, there's going to be a bunch of points scored in this game. We saw that from these two teams last year. And looking back at those two games from a year ago, Kyle Pitts caught 7 of 8 targets for 88 yards in the first matchup against the Buccaneers. And then he went 4 of 15 for 91 yards and 2 touchdowns in the second matchup. Those were literally his 2 highest scoring weeks of the season. Both of those came against Tampa Bay. I know it's a new season, it's a new quarterback, but Kyle Pitts, like it or not, he has massive boom potential in week 1, so much so that I am predicting that Kyle Pitts is going to finish week 1 as the highest scoring tight end in fantasy football.